And hello and welcome to AleksTabletops Sandbox MTG Study session 77. My name is Alex and let's continue studying Magic the Gathering. Okay, camera is definitely works super wrong, so let's address that. So we need to go into the settings and we need to do that. Unfortunately, this is one of the things now it works. The things that constantly need to do. So yeah, today we will continue finally studying Magic the Gathering. As you see right now, again, we will continue to use the X-Mind. For that, we're going to study, for the most part, casual sets. Again, these casual sets include, what do they include? Archenemy, Planchase, Conspiracy, Explorers of Ixalan, and Commander. I don't know how much time we're going to spend on each of those, and because of that, I kinda decided to put things in a general way, like that we're going to study just casual sets. Maybe we will finish with Archenemy and Planchase and today, and maybe we will go through all of them through today. I don't know. I don't know. So I guess we will kind of figure things out along the way. So let's just do that. By the way, I spent a little bit of time on that. Which was pretty cool. I kind of made, as was promised, to myself, that I will go and actually create some type of subcategories, or at least categorize them a little bit better. We will talk about that in a bit. So once we will kind of get to the actual studying, this information kind of will help us to categorize things a little bit better. So yeah, I will briefly talk about the reasons behind these categories, and for the most part, again, we're going to work with the different categories first, and then if we're going to see some kind of I don't know, relationship between certain categories, we will put these mechanics there. But again, for now, to just not confuse ourselves with too much information, we're going to put things separately. So as we study Archenemy, everything that we think is new to us, we're going to put in here. The same goes for Planechase and etc. For Conspiracy, Commander, let's just, by the way, put things in a proper thing, because I'm planning to use study Commander as the last one. I already put two things from the Commander that we established earlier in here. And yeah, we will start with Archenemy, then we will proceed to Planechase, then to Conspiracy, which I don't know at all. Explorers of Ixalan, again, it's probably going to be super fast study, because the only difference with Explorers of Ixalan is the battlefield. It's completely different from the regular Magic battlefield. There's hectagons or hexagons placed, and you kind of placing some type of figurines out there. So I don't know, we will figure this out. And the same kind of goes for the Commander. The only reason why I decided to keep Commander for later, because it's kind of a completely different thing that I wouldn't say that it launches annually, but this is the most popular, I guess, casual of all, because there's only a couple of sets of Conspiracy, but Commander is kind of at least couple of years that releasing new things with the Commander. So I believe that this is the most kind of a playable set in casual. These are not that much, although I love Planechase most of all from all of these. I guess stop talking and start doing things. Okay, so we will continue. By the way, let's check first if the sound is not overbearing. Yeah, it isn't supposed to. So yeah, as you can see, a little bit of a different setup. Visually things are a little bit changed. There was a need for that, because I tried to switch the streaming setup and I'm still kind of struggling with it. So for instance, this is the thing that I'm streaming right now and recording. I'm recording it through the OBS, and everything that's going to involve inside of the system work, basically studying things like that, all my creatives, everything like that, I'm going to stream through OBS still, because it works perfectly for that. But when it comes down to games, unfortunately, OBS can't handle, within my system, OBS can handle games for the most part, and because of that I'm going to use a different program for that. So the half of the stream we're going to stream through the OBS, and the second part, which is going to be completely fine, and the second part of the stream is going to be streamed through the Recentral, which is the program from Avermedia, whatever. And it's going to utilize a capture card for that, but it's not perfect because for some reason inside of the program I have some weird problems with the sound, which I don't know how to deal with it. I spent the whole freaking week because of that I completely canceled all streams, because I actually spent all this week on freaking tests. I reinstalled a lot of programs. I tried to pinpoint the problem and I didn't figure it out. Like, what's the problem? The problem basically with the sound, and it's still unclear. So we're not going to talk about bad stuff. We will talk about a positive things. And this is my problem, and me to solve it. So yeah, we'll start with Archenemy. So the whole point about Archenemy is we're probably not going to study. So we have deck lists and we have schemes. So when it comes down to cards, I don't believe that we need to study cards, because most of these cards are actually, we're going to see them somewhere. This is kind of in a weird set. I don't know what this set is. Yeah, but most of the cards are actually present in the actual set. So once we will reach these cards in the actual sets, we will study them, because we will still go through all sets. Because of that, we're not going to stick to a planchase things, but I definitely remember that there are cards or not planchase, but Archenemy. I definitely believe that there are cards that kind of work with the planchase a bit. So because of that, we will still go through these cards and we will make sure that they're not going to include any inside of the set kind of mechanics, whatever. So as long as card exiled with a duplicant is a creature card, duplicant has the power and toughness and creature type of the last creature card exiled with the duplicant, it's still a shapeshifter and imprint ability. Yeah, I definitely think that duplicant is the card in the actual sets. For that, of course, we are going to search quickly through the cards. So just put the name. Things are recording. Things are working. Fine. Yep. So yeah, this is the artifact. For some reason, right here, it's not as an artifact. Right here, it actually looks different. Maybe it's just a different set. No, this is actually artifact. I guess it was just reprinted in a different art state. It's pretty cool. Let's search it in here. Yeah, what the set is: Masterpiece Series, Kaladesh Inventions. Okay, this is a special. Good. So yeah, for the most part, I remember that card. Remember this one too. This one too. This one too. This one. This one. This one. Target permanent becomes an artifact in addition to another types. Gain control of the target artifact. Yeah, I'm going to check quickly cards that I'm not sure about, or I don't know what set they are. Okay, what this set is. Type, flavor text, from the vault lore. Okay, we will get through. Oh, snap. Ugh, sorry about that. I probably should drink water before streaming. I'm slightly dehydrated, and it got to my throat. Yes, so yeah, it's from the Vault, Dark Steel, Archenemy, and from the Vault and Dark Steel. So yeah, because we will get to these sets, we're not going to cover it now. So I guess most of the cards we actually could skip. There's no cards that are Archenemy special, or yeah, they are cards that Planchase special, but there's definitely no cards that are Archenemy special. But again, we will either way we'll go through them. Okay, add the amount for each charge counter. Multi-kicker, battlefield charge counter. Nope. Nope. Equip creature has haste and shroud. Nope. Nope. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, this one deals damage to target player unless he or she has exactly 3 or exactly 4 cards in hand. Okay. Flip a coin. If you win a flip, sacrifice this one and draw 3 cards. Whenever you deal damage to that many, put that many charge counters on this droplet. At the beginning of each upkeep, you may remove a charge counter from it. If you do gain life. Yeah, so far no special things for Archenemy. Sacrifice, return all cards, exile, control. No, the only special cards for unsets that I remember from Planechase is the card that searches through, or you can trigger it and you can switch the plane, something like that, or you able to reroll the dice, something like that. So this is the only special card. There's nothing like that in here. So regular cards are just the regular cards. Equip commander mana coast, creature effects. And I guess there's no special things in here. So yeah, we will for the most part study these schemes, because schemes are the most like unique thing to the Archenemy. Oh, wait a minute. What ongoing schemes do in here? They actually were present before? I thought that the first time ongoing schemes was like were represented were not in the original Archenemy, but apparently, like, only in Archenemy Nicolabolas, but apparently ongoing schemes are in here. Okay, this is interesting. So, yeah, so we will put a schemes and we will put an ongoing schemes. Duplicate. Right here, just for the most part, is going to be cut and paste. That's going to make things faster. So, not a lot of schemes, which is a good thing, I guess. So, when you set the scheme in motion, okay, that's a pretty big scheme. When you set the scheme in motion, take an extra turn after this one. Schemes can't set in motion that turn. The hardest part about every casual set that we need to find a way to explain, or to kind of come up with some type of an explanation, or not an explanation. We need to find a way to come up with some type of a, I don't know, general explanation for the Archenemy mechanic, and then go with the specifics of each Archenemy. So for each scheme. So first let's just come up with the Archenemy explanation. What is Archenemy? So as I remember properly, and as I understand how Archenemy works, we're not going to search for an official understanding. We will come up with something on our own, because it's rather simple. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you set this, you set a scheme in motion. You have to. If rules are not really in the opposite, then you have to. What beginning? Beginning. I forgot how beginning Seriously? Seriously? That easy of the word? Yeah, double N. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you have to set a scheme in motion. A scheme from the separate scheme deck. Separate scheme deck in motion. That's it. So this is kind of a general rule for plane chase. So basically, you play with additional deck. You able to game mode consists additional scheme deck, and additional scheme deck, I don't know, it's kind of a general, I don't know, option. We need to figure out the proper word for that. So common deck, that doesn't sound right. Not the common deck. Again, it's pretty weird to kind of translate it in English. So game mode, this game mode So this game mode consists additional like general scheme deck that every opponent can use. Let's just specify that general is every opponent can use. Scheme deck at the beginning of scheme deck. And at the beginning of your upkeep, of each player's upkeep, of player's upkeep, you have to set a scheme from the scheme deck. We already established what scheme deck is, in motion, and face the consequences, or basically face the rules. Or face the result, and face the result or results. It could be multiple results. So this is kind of a general explanation for the scheme deck. So now, knowing that, it's already kind of sums up every plane chase or every Archenemy card. And now it's going to be much easier to study each Archenemy card separately. So when you set this scheme in motion, take an extra turn after this one. So basically, schemes cannot be set in motion that turn. So again, this is just a regular in-game trigger. Take an extra turn after this one. But in this particular instance, like trying to apply this to plane chases, it's definitely a different one. So let's just do that. Okay. So if you take an extra turn after this one, schemes can't be set in motion that turn. That's it. This is kind of the only specification that's applicable for the rules of the blend chase, because again, each player upkeep you have to set a scheme in motion, like one usually, from the scheme deck in motion, and face the results. In this particular instance, it's kind of basically a specification for that. So if you take an extra turn after this one, schemes can't be set in motion that turn. It's pretty clear because that way it's kind of create this balance, because you still will you're just going to take an extra turn and scheme is not going to be reset in the next upkeep. So this is just kind of a balance. So okay, for that we're done. Yeah, because it's pretty unreadable in here for you, at least. I'm seeing the things, but in order for you to basically see the art and read the text with me, I just going to enlarge them. So when you set this scheme in motion, destroy all non-land permanents target opponent controls. So nothing special, just basically triggers the in-game ability that we already kind of established in Magic: destroy all non-land permanents target opponent controls. So basically this is a massive destroyer, so nothing special about that one. It's just basically triggers the in-game abilities. By the way, it could be a good idea to explain what blend chase is, or what schemes are. So basically, once set in motion, triggers in-game action. And again, as we already established previously, in-game actions could be anything, like in-game related stuff. So it could be a destroying creature, it could be a targeting creature, it could be sacrificing creatures, it could be buffing creatures, it could be searching for your deck for a certain card. So everything that kind of sets in the world of Magic is could be camera is too low, too high. Everything that sets in the world of Magic can be kind of looked up that way as a in-game action. So this is just a general explanation what schemes are. There's too much stuff, so let's just make things a little bit better looking. So we'll choose what schemes are. I'm just going to create that thing and that thing. This is usually how I'm representing those things, what the scheme is and what ongoing scheme is too. Ongoing schemes work a little bit differently, so they're going to be special here too. Okay, ongoing schemes. So again, as a specification, take control. We don't need that anymore. If you take an extra turn after this one, schemes can't be set in motion that turn. And in regards to this card, basically, that card. So it basically sets in motion and you destroy all target permanents, which is in-game action. So because of that, we're not going to put this one as a separate thing. So the next one is Embrace My Diabolic Vision. This is a name. So when you set this scheme in motion, each player shuffles his or her hand and graveyard into his or her library. You draw 7 cards, then each other player draws 4 cards. So basically, we're not going to put that one in the game because it's basically kind of resets the game on a certain state. We already created such ability or such mechanic that basically kind of resets the state of the game by changing a current situation. So right here, basically, each player shuffles his or her hand and graveyard, kind of basically restarts the game. You draw 7 cards and then each player draws 4 cards instead. So basically, it kind of resets the game with certain perks to you. Like, you could lose at certain situation. Once you encounter this scheme, game kind of resets, and you will gain more than before, like additional cards basically, and your opponents will draw less cards. So kind of cool, but again, we're not going to put this one as a separate one because it's just a regular thing. That's what I talked about, like studying plane chases and archenemies. There are not that many unique abilities. They will be present within certain set, like in relation to the schemes, but for the most part, they're just the regular ones. Although, I want to make sure that I'm properly calling them. Hopefully.
Scheme.
Yep. It would be a bummer if I spend that much time talking about them and naming them schemes, and in reality the proper pronunciation is Archenemy. No. So when you set the scheme in motion, target opponent chooses self or others. Okay. If that player chooses self, he or she sacrifices 2 creatures. If the player chooses others, each of your other opponents sacrifice a creature. Okay, choice, self or others. We actually didn't encounter this type of mechanic yet. I know that there are cards that do that. So basically, I remember one of the cards, it's a red one, and when you play this card, you choose yourself or the opponent, and basically if no one agrees to be the target, then this card basically deals damage to everyone or whatever, or you lose 6 life or something like that. So basically, we definitely could put this one as a separate ability. So target opponent chooses self, not for the archenemy necessarily, but just like in regular abilities, because we definitely will face those in the future. So, and I guess it's time to read our categories in order to understand in which category we could place this ability. So we'll start from the top. So the first category that I established, again, this is just for now, they might change in time. So physical interaction with the card. Oh, by the way, we need to enlarge things a little bit in order for you to see text a little bit more and better. So physical interactions with card and activation in-game abilities by this interaction. Again, tearing card to pieces, throwing the cards, choosing, choose every card of a specific time in play, dropping cards. So basically just an actual physical interaction with the card. I actually have cards closer to me. So like we have magic cards, yes, and we're basically choosing to do something with them. We could kinda, I don't know, we could, oh snap, we could kind of toss them, we could shuffle them, and the shuffling could bring some type of action. We could do basically multiple things with them, and depending on what like we could do with them, like I don't know, physically, like turning this thing in a different state, whatever. So depending on the action that we're going to take with these cards and perform, and depending on what interactions we're going to perform, the actual our interaction with the card. So not the interaction between cards, because the interaction between cards is a completely different category. So based on this physical interaction of us with the cards, oh snap, that was not good. Based on this physical interactions, we are going to be able to do things. So this definitely doesn't work for that category, because target opponent chooses self or others. So basically it's based on choice. So we need to think about that in order to understand what category is going to be placed in. So action out of the game based. It's pretty hard to put something out of the game based in terms of like what to put in here, because everything kind of revolves around activating the in-game action, but for the most part it's just the out of the game things. So for instance, one of your cards in the game gives you a certain out of the game perk, and again, out of the game perk is could be anything that can fit to activate in-game abilities. So for instance, say I'm rubber, you're glue, and everything bounces off me and sticks to you, and that way we are like targeting, we basically activating the in-game abilities. So something like that, and forces players to like to get something out of the game range, some drink or whatever. So forces you to act a different way. So everything that involves out of the game behavior sticks to this category, and our ability basically doesn't fit here. because you basically target the opponent, basically chooses self or others, again based on choice. The next thing that I created like as a separate category, or decided to separate, is in-game action. So in-game action based. So we had out of the game action based, this is the in-game action based things. So again, kind of works the same as with out of the game action, but basically targets or triggers something in-game ability. Basically it's most of the cards in Magic. Most of the cards are triggering in-game actions, and because of that I didn't put that much in here, only specifics like a specific in-game action, or you control like creatures you control get additional perk for each specific card. So right here we're actually going to place something super general, and because of that it's going to be much harder to do. So I guess after we will learn more cards and we will go through all sets, this is going to be one of the most kind of important categories, because we definitely need to come up with like general abilities, well, general in-game actions, so targeting players, like dealing damage to players and something like that. This is kind of will go in here. So roll dice based or any random generator based thing, we could place our choice ability to the random generator, but again it's not a random generator, because again you either choosing yourself or others. If the player chooses self, something happens. It could work as a random generator, because this random generator just kind of, okay, let's think. Target opponent chooses self or others. Okay, first we target the opponent, then this opponent chooses self or others. If the player chooses self, he or she sacrifices 2 creatures. If players chooses others, each of your other opponents sacrifice a creature. So either this player, by choosing himself or herself, loses 2 creatures and creatures of other opponents will survive, or he or she decides to target other players. Everyone except that player that made that choice sacrifice a one creature. It's kind of a cool thing. It's pretty close to a random generator, but it's not necessarily that. But it's super close to that. So maybe we need to put it in here, because I don't believe that we will like create a certain category for targeting self or others. So yeah, and it's also super specific. Usually we could create a multiple variations for that, because this is too specific. Again, we could create a separate ability that works with based on choice. Yeah, I guess we actually will create a completely separate ability, because it definitely doesn't fit random generator, because again, nothing random about that. It's just a specific kind of rules. So again, continuing with card interactions, right now they're actually in between cards, so cards could interact. You can put them together, you can combine them, you can melt them together. So yeah, combining them in a different way. So basically just everything that involves like the card interactions. When one card, the presence of one card give the other card a perk while this card is present in play, something like that. So yeah. Cumulative based is basically based on a certain or the most merits. We already established that, like based on winning streak, based on losing streak, and everything that works with like cumulative things. It could work with cumulative upkeeps. So like the more turns you will go through, the progression of turns will give you a certain perk the more you play in terms of the time. So basically it could be anything. Because of that, like, we decided to name them as a cumulative based. So price balance based, it's pretty hard for us to create this kind of a separation, because everything has a price in these type of games. So if we want to play a card we need to like pay price for it. And because of that, I kind of decided, okay, you have to pay certain in-game price for having something in play. It's a little bit different. So first we need to play a card in order to put card in play. But at the same time, that could be cards that could basically in order to keep them in play, we need to pay a certain price each turn. You have to perform a specific action rule on the card as the price. If you will lose something, that card while you're controlling the card gives a certain price. The only thing that I will like create in here is just an additional thing. So you have to pay a certain price, a certain in-game price to put card in play. Most of the games have that, but there are actually games that don't have that. So there are games that you don't have to pay any price. So each turn you actually will be able to play all cards in your hand without that much of a price. The only price could be is just a restriction how many cards you can play per turn, or the restriction that like forces you to play all cards or play only a couple of cards or only specific cards. So, and it's not necessarily a price balanced, it's basically called balance based. Like, because of that, I put the price / balance based, because everything needs to be kind of a balanced. So because of that, this category is definitely going to be one that we will get back to for a long time, or multiple occasions. Name text base. I definitely remember that we have more than just one text based. I didn't finish sorting things out, but they're definitely present in there because there are different sets that I kind of didn't worked on yet. And again, this is not necessarily for unglued. It's kind of established like this is for unglued, but in reality this is not for unglued in specific. It's for the most part just the overall things. Cumulative based, price based, name based, everything that involves name of the cards, and there's a lot of them actually, like a lot. So like you have to know the name of the card, you have to know how card behaves, and etc. All of these things. By the way, the session is going to be about 2 hours. Hopefully we will finish with at least one casual set like Archenemy or Plane Chase. But if I'm going to go like that, we'll probably not. But still, it's kind of important because I take a bit of a break, and after that break we kind of need to set our mind back to the studying, and because of that we kind of need to revisit things, and especially considering the fact that I spent a little bit of time to putting these things together, it's worth mentioning. So control based, again, everything that involves changing control, losing control, gaining control, and changing control either way, so exchanging. Rule based, in-game state, this is one of the things that kind of changes the state of the game. So it basically changes the rules of the game, like you're able to play an extra turn after that one, so something like that. We actually didn't put anything that works with an extra turn. Particular phase, impact, certain restriction for a certain card. Yeah, I guess we need to put something with an extra turn in here. It could be a good idea. You can play an extra turn. After this one. Something like that. It's usually going to be enough. So you can play an extra... Oh. Ear broke. So, yeah, ban card, basically multiple things. We're not going to touch upon them. Yeah, and these are basically the basic categories that we can establish. There's still a lot of abilities in Unhinged that we didn't cover, and I definitely will need to kind of reread them and place them under certain categories, and if they're not going to fit in certain categories, we need to kind of create our own categories for that. Mana applied. changes the way mana behaves. It just could go in the rules. This thing could go in the name-based thing that works with the words and everything like that. Again, I'm not going to do that right now. Like mini games and like separate categories definitely need to be created for that. But for now, we're going to not do that. So again, continuing with on sets or with casual sets. So what we will create right now is a separate thing that works with the choice, because I believe that this is important. So choice based. So it basically forces you to make choices and face the consequences of these choices. This is the only thing that I could think of when it comes down to the choice thing. Just duplicate that, duplicate another one, create a thing, make this thing like that. Choose any color. Yep, choice based, and we're going to put that one in here. So target opponent basically chooses self or others. So target opponent chooses self or others. Target opponent chooses. So basically, it involves some type of a choice. So basically, we've been given a choice between like choosing what players to pick, and it's kind of weird because almost every time we're choosing a target, like choose a target and deal like certain damage to this target, or choose a player, that player is going to lose life each turn, well, until this card is going to be kind of placed on the graveyard or whatever. So it's kind of all over the place inside of the game. But what I mean by this choice based, it means like is a little bit deeper, on a little bit deeper level. Like for instance, you have to choose between, like choose between based. Yes. So choose between based it's better. Choice between based. It's super weird. If we're actually going to put this one in translator, it's going to definitely be a weird thing. Based. Yeah, I guess it works. So basically, choose between based abilities. So target opponent chooses self or others, or you choose. You choose yourself or others, or other opponent. Oh, okay. Yes, so you choose yourself or others. So basically, it all kind of comes down to between. You choose between something. Or others, or you choose between creatures, and whatever creature you will choose will survive, so something like that. So basically like that. So you choose a creature to lose something, or this creature dies. Something like that. So basically, we could come up with multiple solutions. Like once we will establish the whole category, we could come up with anything. Like it all depends, of course, on our basic knowledge of the game and the rules, but for the most part, it's definitely an interesting thing, like choice-based. The only problem is we need to constantly think about the different, like the in-between element. Like yes, we're choosing a creature, but then if we're not going to choose this creature, like either we're choosing a creature to lose something, or this creature dies, so we kind of don't have a choice. If we don't want for this creature to kind of lose this ability, then we're choosing to lose this ability. Or basically we could lose something. Again, it could be anything. It's just right here for the sake of example. So continuing, because come on, like for almost 15 minutes and we're still on a 4th card. So continue into the next one. Again, and in here, like target opponent chooses self or others. If that player chooses self, he or she, so basically we choosing the target player, then we kind of putting a burden of decision making on this player, and then player kind of decides things, which is kind of a cool thing. I guess we could put this one in here too. Target opponent chooses self or others, you choose yourself or others. What else we could do? You choose a player that chooses self or others. So this is basically the thing about that card. So you choose a player that chooses self or others, and then of course some type of thing, some type of in-game action is triggered. We actually need to specify that. So the choice the final choice, because it could be a kind of a chain of decisions and choices. So the final choice is triggering in-game action. This is kind of the whole point about like the choosing in between. We could lose something with these choices, we could gain something with these choices. It all will depend on a certain condition. So yeah, the next card. So the next card, oh yeah, I remember that one. So when you set the scheme in motion, each opponent loses 3 lives. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. I don't believe that we need to put this one, because again, it's just a basic life gaining ability. The only difference in here is cumulative based. So basically each, like if we're playing against like 5 opponents or 4 opponents, and each of these opponents will lose a certain amount of lives, we will gain lives equal to the lives lost this way. So basically kind of cumulates or combines all these lives lost, and we'll be gaining lives equal to the amount of lost lives. I don't believe that we need to put this one anywhere, but we need to think about that because it might have some significance in the future. Control based, price based, name based, cumulative based, based on certain merit. We could put them in a cumulative based abilities, because I believe it basically, the more players you play against, the more lives you will get. This is just it. Like you gain life. So no. Card targets multiple opponents. All opponents. Let's just say that. Because in Magic there's a lot of cards that kind of target multiple opponents. In this particular instance, card targets all opponents. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. or you gain, not life, something. Again, life, I don't know, cards, whatever, equal to the card targets all opponents. They lose something. They lose something, and you gain something. Again, this something could be lives, cards, or whatever. So basically it's kind of an exchange. You target multiple opponents and you will gain something equal to the numbers of something. Oh, numbers of something lost this way. I guess this is the only way that I could come up with, like, because again, my English knowledge is not enough to form a proper explanation for that, or proper mechanics. So either way, again, creating things understandable for me, and then I will rework them for much more broader audience once I will use them. So card target card, like certain card targets all opponents. They lose something, life or cards, and you gain something equal to the number of number of something lost this way. So again, the more opponents, the better result. That's kind of it. Yeah, continue to the next one. Yep. Again, not that many of those, but still. Stats, simple hand, deck list. Wait a minute, what deck list this is? You tell me that Archenemy only has one set of cards with 8 schemes in addition? Because I actually don't know how it got. Because again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different packs with Archenemy with the different decks, and ideally each has to have its own deck, but apparently it's not. 16 artifacts, 14 creatures, 5 instances, and 1 enchantment. Yeah. Either way, I guess all schemes right here are present, because there's about 20 of them. So I believe that these are not just schemes for one set. Oh no, actually. Oh, there's a lot of them. So 19 schemes in each? But there's actually a lot of schemes in here. This is interesting. Never thought about that. So, yep, there's more schemes than that. Pretty cool, pretty cool. So that means that we'll probably will continue with this set for a long time, because it's not going to be a quick one. So when you set the scheme in motion, create a token that's a copy of target permanent and opponent controls. Again, just copying things. We already established something that works with control. I don't believe that we actually created something that kind of creates copies of cards, But for the most part, duplicate, copy a card, I guess something similar already created, or if not, it's so clear that I doubt that we will miss that as an ability. So I will still try to check. Yeah, we should have something with the copy. You can put in the deck only one copy of each card. No, something different. Top copy. You can create a temporary copy of that card, put that card in play. Yeah, so there's no separate ability that kind of allows us to create copies of cards, but I guess it's clear. Let's just go into and yeah, by the way, I created all around mechanics and abilities and put right here every mechanic and ability like with a name. So everything that either we come up with the name or it has the name is in here. So Planeswalker, loyalty counters, bending, and etc. So I guess we could create something that works with a copy in here. Flying, provoke, and it's going to be somewhere in here. So rebound, flashback, multi-kicker type. Yeah, let's just create thing in here. Copy or create a copy. A copy or a duplicate. So copy is usually a token, but duplicate, it's a little bit different. So if you're duplicating a card, you're not copying it. Like, at least we could look at this ability this way. So when you copy a card, it basically creates a token, so it's not a real card. And if you, for instance, will put this card in a player's hand, this card will be lost. It's just going to go into the exile zone and we're never going to see it. So when you duplicate a card, it's basically creates an actual copy. Actual copy. So not a token. So it's kind of will create an actual copy of the card. So create a copy or a duplicate of a card. That's it. I guess we had to establish that. Good, continuing. So again, every general abilities that we will come up with, we will put in here, and then we'll sort them a little bit better. So again, frequently used abilities. By the way, this is actually needs to be in a frequently used abilities because it's definitely frequently used. So let's put them in there. Not in actual mechanics with a name, but instead in here. Yep. Continuing. Okay, so again, as I said before, this is the hardest part right now when it comes down to studying. Since we already established some type of a base, now it's all about keeping up with the base. What I mean by that is everything that we're going to create now, we need to compare to whatever we already have. And this is where the studying usually becomes harder, because the more information you have, the harder it is to manipulate this information. That's why I'm finding intellectual maps or mind maps the best way to sort the amount of information that we're gathering, because you can create categories. You don't have to put all these things in your mind and keep them out there. You create a pretty good and understanding for you mind map that will allow you to deal with these things on an occasional basis if you will need to do that. And you will find things faster because they're going to be a little bit more organized, because usually our brains are kind of scattered all over the place. Neural pathways are intertwined and there's complete mess out there, and we need to train ourselves to put these neural pathways in the proper, I don't know, ties, whatever, I don't know. This is science, we're not going to deal with science. So we able to train our mind, but in order to do that we need to find a understandable way for our brain to analyze things. Because if I would just study those things without like creating these notes, it would probably be pointless, because there's no information I'm going to take out of that. But creating these things, I will definitely will have this information, and if I will need that, and I will definitely need that once I will start to create my own tabletop games, I can use this information in my own way. Like, it actually will be helpful. So once I will start to establish some type of my own like in-game mechanics for my own tabletop game, every time that I'm going to stumble upon certain type of mechanic, I will know that, okay, is this a choice-based mechanic? Is this a rule-based mechanic? And I will read these things, and they will inspire me to create my own rules. They will inspire me to create my own mechanics. This is all about that. So, and you might not, like, your brain might not work that way, but but it still will be helpful to have some type of a structure. And I guess every person will come up with their own structure depending on how your brain works. But again, you need to understand how your brain works and utilize that, because every brain aside of the general like behaviors of the brain that similar in each people, there are a different type of thinking, like the way you think, the way you analyze things. It's usually different for each person, and you need to understand how your brain processing the information. And working with intellectual maps, I believe, is the best way to find a way how your brain processing the information. At the beginning, it's definitely going to be a hard thing to do, because you're just not going to know how to deal with that. And but once you will start to do that, you will figure out what type of categorization best for you. Maybe you will categorize things not with the text but visually instead. Maybe you will come up with some type of a visual cues that will allow you to deal with this. I'm kind of dealing with the text, because for me it's kind of the thing that I'm usually working with best way. Although it's pretty weird, as an artist I should be a visual person, but for me text provides a pretty good visual understanding of things. So, because again, text, it's a visual thing too. It's not just pictures, it's words that could be interpreted as pictures. So, and each time that I'm kind of dealing with the mechanic and trying to understand mechanic, I'm picturing in my mind how this mechanic will behave. I'm picturing in my mind the actions that this mechanic is going to trigger, of course based on the experience of playing with these type of games, especially Magic. And I guess Magic is the main image creator in my mind. But either way, this is kind of the way that I'm operating when it comes down to studying these things. And again, everything that I'm doing right now is definitely for a reason. So I'm not going to burn out, because I have a strong goal where this thing is headed, and because of that I'm going to just keep doing this. If I'm going to have less time, of course I will do this, put less time on that, but still I will get back to that either way until we finish the studying. And I will do the same thing for other games, maybe in a less tense way, for every tabletop games that we're going to study in the future. So, and we're studying already. Yeah. So basically just a token of a permanent that opponents control. Yep, continuing. So the next card is Introduction Are in Order. We don't need that. So when you see the scheme in motion, choose one. Again, based on choice. Oh, by the way, choose one or two. There are an actual mechanic that work with the choice. Choose one or two. In Magic. So we already established these type of mechanics. There are actually in repeatable mechanics in Magic, in commonly used, but without a name. A couple of them actually have a name. Yeah, in MTG Sets they actually created a name for choose one or both, or choose everything on, or for each choice you will pay more mana, and etc. So again, there's just a regular, you're searching for your library for a card and put them in your hand, then shuffle shuffle your library, and you may put a creature card from your hand into the battlefield. We already established that, so continue. Okay. Once we will kind of get to the thing, things will become a little bit faster. So When you set the scheme in motion, create a 6/4 colorless golem artifact token. That's it. So just basically a scheme that puts creature in play. Nothing special. It's kind of the same as a card. This is a basic in-game action. Create a token or create a creature, put a creature in play. So my genius knows no bounds. Okay, how about this one? So when you set this scheme in motion, you may pay X. If you do, you gain X life and draw X cards. Again, the actual in-game things, and we've already established something similar like that. Like you pay X, and with the amount paid, you gain X of something. Done. Continuing. Actually, let's just put all of 4 of them. No, all of them in here. They will load on top. It's going to be a little bit faster. So when you set this scheme in motion, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tab, then shuffle your library. Again, we didn't necessarily create the abilities that work with drawing multiple lands out of the deck, but for the most part, it's kind of works the same. So you search your library for a 1 card, 2 cards, 4 cards of whatever type you want. So we already have the basic thing out of it. And of course there's always some type of element of balance to it. These cards could enter onto the battlefield tapped, or basically with Summon in Sickness, if these are creatures, whatever. So basically not going to put this one. The pieces are coming together, so coming together. When you set the scheme in motion, draw 2 cards. Artifact spells you cast this turn cost 2 less. Basically, this card reduces cost by 2 and basically gives you 2 additional cards. Yep, and reduces the cost of artifacts. Nothing special. I mean, like, nothing special for us. We already established some all abilities like that. So, okay, your fate is thrice sealed. Thrice sealed. Thrice, it's just 3 times, I mean, yes? Yep. When you set the scheme in motion, reveal the top 3 cards of your library. Put all land cards revealed this way into the battlefield and the rest into your hand. Again, revealing cards, putting them in play, not putting them in play, and deciding. So, puny or pawny?
Puny.
Tridushny?
Puny.
Small and weak.
Puny.
Fun word. No. So when you set this scheme in motion, draw 4 cards, you have no maximum hand size until end of the turn. Again, this basically works with changing the rules of the game, because Magic rules read that we have only 7 cards maximum, and this basically changes the rules of the game, and we already established things that work with changing the rules of the game. We could put in here something with extending the hand size. No, rule based. Change a card in game state. Okay, you can play an extra turn after this one. Yeah, let's just put things that basically removes restriction. I believe we already had something like that. That works with removing restriction though. Remove a certain restriction for a card in game action mechanic. Restriction. Remove a certain restriction. From the card. No. From the actual rules. From the rules. Remove a certain restriction from the rules. And by removing restriction, I guess we could go with no limit. There's no limit So basically not restriction but limitation. Remove a certain limitation. Yeah, not restriction. Remove a certain limitation from the rules. So now there are no limits or limit. Good. Continuing. Yeah, and again, you have no maximum hand size until your next turn, until the end of the game. It all depends. It's just basically a specification for these rules. Okay, next one is ongoing scheme. Oh, this is already ongoing scheme? So ongoing scheme actually remains face up until it's abandoned. So now we will create a thing for the ongoing scheme. An ongoing scheme remains face up until it's abandoned. So basically it works constantly. Once you set the scheme in motion, triggers in-game action and I guess shuffles back to the library. And the difference for the ongoing scheme, it basically stays, remains face up until it's abandoned, until it's going to be shuffled back with the next trigger. So basically because of that, they usually will provide a constant positive effect, which will continue, not just basically is going to be triggered once and that's it, but will continue. Untapable permanents you control during each opponent's untap step. So kind of cool. So basically they will untap each untap step. Pretty cool. But again, we already worked with untapping abilities. This is just kind of a different situation. At the beginning of each end step, if 3 or more cards were put into your graveyard this turn from anywhere, abandon this scheme. Oh. Okay, if certain conditions are met, abandon this scheme. This is the only thing that we could create as a if certain conditions are met, abandon this scheme. Abandon the scheme. This is an important thing because like we need to, this is just a way to balance things, because since this scheme could be present in play until it's going to be abandoned, I guess ideally maybe it's not going to change. No, it should change next turn. Like at the beginning of each player's upkeep, you have to set a scheme in motion, and if scheme already in motion, ideally it stays there. So it kind of acts as a plain chase, I guess. I guess that's kind of it. Until it's abandoned. So basically it stays in play until certain conditions are met. Stays in play until certain conditions are met. Not in play, stays in motion. Because again, we need to set scheme in motion. We need to create a parallel between regular scheme and ongoing scheme. So stays in motion until certain conditions are met. And if certain conditions are met, you basically will abandon the scheme. Continuing. Yep. By the way, are these conditions are realistic? So at the beginning of each end step, if 3 or more cards were put into a graveyard this turn from anywhere, abandon this. So you could discard a card, you could put cards from the top of your library into the graveyard, or creatures could die, or you could force opponent to discard cards. Yep, pretty cool, pretty cool. And there's only 2 ongoing schemes in here, so nothing can stop me now. If a certain opponent controls would deal damage, do you prevent one of the damage? Okay, this is just basically a damage decreaser. It basically allows you to decrease the damage that is going to be dealt, which we not necessarily have these type of abilities. We could create those. At the beginning of each end step, if you have dealt 5 or more damage this turn, abandon this game. Again, just the in-game thing, in-game condition that will result in abandoning this scheme. If a certain opponent controls would deal damage to you, prevent one of the damage. I don't know, should we create something like that to like add something like that to our library or not? This is a question. It's definitely not going to be in here. It's not related to Archenemies, or yeah, choice. Control based, name based, price, cumulative, card interactions. We could put them in frequently used without the name. We actually have cumulative upkeep in here too. Oh, actually this thing needs to be somewhere where we have out of the game action, because say card's name is basically, yeah, but again, we're going to replace these things all over the place. The more sense the things will starting to get towards the end, the more clear these categories will get. For now, they're kind of going to be a little bit of misplaced, and which is completely fine. So spells your opponent costs more to play, spells your play cost less to play. We kind of could use the same mechanic but apply it to damage. Damage you damage. Damage you deal increased by a certain amount, and the same increased by a certain amount, and the same could go with damage that dealt to you, decreased damage that dealt, okay, dealt, that's the word. Damage that dealt to you decreased by a certain amount. My nose is scratching. Allergies? Nope, don't have those. So damage you deal increased by a certain amount, and damage that dealt to you decreased by a certain amount. This is definitely present in Magic all over the place. This is one of the things that constantly present in Magic. I would say even more than constantly, they're kind of out there. Continuing. Yep. And that's it for that. And we have about yeah, we actually have about 40 minutes because we started a little bit later, which is a good thing because that means that in Magic Duels we will play starting from the new quest. And by the way, there's only going to be 2 quests to play through, not that many of those. So switching to the Bring About the Dead Apocalypse deck list. So again, cards in here for the most part are already... Oh, what the heck is that? Oh, this is, by the way, a card that was reprinted in Amonkhet as a special one, I guess? Or what? Prophecy, Time Shift, Archenemy Rare, Magic the Gathering Commander, Graveborn, Conspiracy, and Masterpiece Series, Amonkhet, and Vocation Special. Okay, pretty cool, pretty cool. Again, once you see the card that has a different look, it kind of confuses you, but for the most part, it's the same card that already been used. Yeah, I have the zombie. Yeah, I have most of these in my collection. Some of them I bought, some of them like separately. Some of them were gathered by collecting sets. Yeah, I guess most of the cards are not special. Again, if one deck doesn't have anything special for the Archenemy, I doubt that the other decks are going to have something, because it's just not fair. Because I remember that Planchase has these Planchase cards that present in each deck. The same kind of needs to be for this one. So 19 cards. Let's just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll go 5, then 5 more, etc. Okay, the next one, choose your champion. When you set this scheme in motion, target opponent chooses a player. Again, choice. Until your next turn, only you and the chosen player can cast spells and attack with creatures. Again, based on choice, it kind of forces the opponent to choose something, and then it triggers an game ability or creates a restriction for the game until end of the turn or whatever. So, good. Continuing. Dance, pathetic marionette, dance. I guess we need another dance in here. When you set the scheme in motion, each opponent reveals cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals a creature card. Choose one of the revealed creature cards and put them into the battlefield under your control. Put all other cards revealed this way into their owner's graveyards. Okay, so basically just multiple types of things. So first you... after this scheme set in motion, each opponent basically reveals the top cards of his or her library until he or she reveals a creature card. So again, you reveal a card until certain type card required you're going to find, and then choose one of the revealed creature cards. Choose one of them. No, just one, because yeah, one card, and put it under your control to the battlefield, and put other cards revealed this way into their owner's graveyards. Kind of interesting milling thing. So, but again, nothing super special about that. It's just a combination of multiple things: putting cards in a graveyard, looking at cards, facing certain conditions by revealing revealed cards, and then putting these cards right away from the top of our library. So yeah, nope, nothing. That shall serve. When you set the scheme in motion, for each opponent puts up to one target creature card from that player's graveyard into the battlefield under control. Each of those creatures attack its owner each combat if able. This is kind of an interesting, because although this has a already existing in-game mechanics, one thing about this card that makes it special, and because of that we will add this element to the mind map, and this element is one, like each of those creatures attack its owner each combat if able. So basically, this thing, it doesn't matter, because for the most part, it's just a combination of in-game actions. Again, for each opponent, combination of cumulative things, so the more opponents you have, the more things you will get control of. And then you will return cards from your graveyards, the opponent's graveyards, onto the battlefield under your control. Again, like bring cards from the graveyard. Another thing, taking you under your control, another. Each of those creatures attack its owner, each combat of Fable. This is a new thing. So basically, we able to, so we need to kind of formulate it properly. It's not commonly used ability, because of that we're going to place that in a different category. The question is, where? Look through the attacker's player, reserve deck. This kind of could go in the choice-based abilities, by the way. You're choosing one card of one type and two cards of one other type that you control them, putting them face down in front of the target opponent after revealing each card to him or to her or her. Then rearrange the order of these cards and as often as you wish, keeping them together. That player then chooses. Yeah, this is basically a choice based. But the problem is though, although this is a choice based, it's super specific. And because of that, it not necessarily goes in here. But you're basically choosing in between, and then opponent chooses something. I don't know where to put this ability, by the way. Attack based, like each of those creatures attack. Because of that, let's just create it separately. Let's just duplicate this thing in here. So you able to you can make creatures opponent controls attack its owner. Creature or creatures creature opponent controls attack its owner, each combat of Fable. You can make creature opponent controls. You can make creature that opponent controls attack its owner, each combat of Fable. Again, it's not necessarily the same, but it's kind of the same, because right here we're basically taking control of the creatures, and these creatures under our control attacking opponents that owned those creatures before. But it's just a specification at this point. The main thing that we need to establish is the fact that you can make creatures that opponent controls attack its owner, each combat if able. So the only specification that we could add is they can do that under your control or under their owner's control. Or you can retarget those creatures to attack whatever opponent of your choice. Yeah, I guess that. Retarget. What's about they? they can do that under they creatures can do that under your control or under their owner's control, or you can retarget those creatures to attack opponent of your choice. Oh, come on. Opponent of your choice. So yeah, this one basically kind of will work. So you can make creatures that opponent controls attack its owner each combat if able, and it's also possible to, so there's multiple instances. If we controlling these creatures will attack each combat if able the opponents of the, like, they're basically their owners. So if these cards were under control of their owner before, like, and now we brought them back from the graveyard, or just basically took control of them directly, they will attack their owner. So basically cards will attack their owners. This is one way. The other way, if we're not controlling these cards, for instance, like one opponent controls one card and this one card will attack this opponent. The other way is to retarget these cards. So for instance, we have opponent number one, opponent number two, and opponent number one controls a creature number one, and then we can make creature number one attack a target opponent number two. So like that. So basically we can change the control of that if we were playing with multiple opponents, which is a cool thing. I don't remember that Magic had that one before, which is a pretty cool. And again, maybe it is present, something like this similar, but it's still pretty cool. So yeah, this is kind of the thing that we came up with this ability. Target from player's graveyard into the battlefield under control. Each of those creatures attack its owner each combat if able. This is a first instance when we taking control of these creatures, and then they will attack their owners each combat if able. But yeah. Next one, a display of my dark power. When you set the scheme in motion until your next turn, whenever a player taps a land for mana, that player adds 1 mana to his or her mana pool of any type that land produced. What? Another time. So when you set the scheme in motion, until your next turn, whenever a player taps a land for mana, that player adds 1 mana to his or her mana pool of any type that land produced. Pretty cool. So basically just additional mana producer. So basically it kind of adds additional mana. Yeah, that's kind of it. And it's not ongoing until your next turn. So yep. Yeah, we're not going to put this one, kind of just the way to play with mana and the way to add additional mana to already existing mana pool. We're not going to put that one. Okay, every hope shall vanish. When you set the scheme in motion, each opponent reveals his or her hand. Choose a non-land card from each of those hands. Those players discard those cards. Nothing special, again, just revealing cards from the hand, which is separate ability or mechanic, whatever. Choose a non-land card, basically choosing a card from these hands, and then those players discard those cards. That's kind of it, nothing special. Continuing. That's it. Okay, the next 5. This one was the last one. Oh, we already actually have this one. So 2 of those, you gain life equal to the life lost this way. So they're repeating themselves, you tell me? They might, by the way. They might repeat themselves. So yeah, we already worked with this card. Again, just set the scheme in motion. Each opponent loses 3 lives, and you gain life equal to the lives lost this way. If we're playing with against like 3 opponents will gain 8 lives, 2 opponents 6, etc. So basically just a math thing. I remember we already went through this one too. Yep, this one already been through. Pretty cool art, by the way. Definitely PG because there's no blood in here. Okay, so when you set this scheme in motion, each opponent lives total becomes the lowest life total among your opponent. No, we're not going to put this one. When you set the scheme in motion, each opponent's life total becomes the lowest life total among your opponents. It basically working with life, and it kind of combined with the cumulative thing, but not at the same time. Not like each opponent life. So basically, if you play against, again, the rules of the Archenemy, we as one playing against multiple players. So we one Archenemy. Oh snap! I forgot how Archenemy works. Stupid me. We playing as the Archenemy against multiple players. For some reason, my brain thought about that as the Archenemy deck could be applicable for each of the players, but it's not. It turns structure a little bit differently. So basically, we play as Archenemy, one, against multiple players, 3, 4, whatever, usually 3 players. And this card basically specified that completely. Okay, good. This game mode consists additional, not general, and not every opponent can use it, only you can use it. Additional, only you can use it. You can use it. Scheme deck, and at the beginning of each player's upkeep, your upkeep, at the beginning of your upkeep. How I could forget that though? That was crazy. I completely forgot the rules. Yeah, I basically just messed up Archenemy with the Planchase, but of course it's completely different. We playing as one Archenemy against multiple players. So again, this game mode consists additional, only you can use it, scheme deck, and at the beginning of your upkeep you have to set a scheme from the scheme deck in motion and face the results. Yes, so scheme 1 set in motion. What do you mean by 1? Set in motion triggers. Scheme. When set in motion triggers in-game action and shuffles back to the scheme library. If you take an extra turn after this one, schemes can't be set in motion that turn. Yep, kind of a balancing thing. Ongoing schemes, an ongoing scheme remains face up until it's abandoned, stays in motion until certain conditions are met. If certain conditions are met, abandon the scheme. So yeah, nothing kind of resulted in changing things. So yeah, the only problem was for some reason I thought about Archenemy as a Planchase, because Planchase is everyone for himself or for herself, or we could team up with 2 against 2, 2 and 2, or whatever. So this is kind of cool. Yeah, and what about this one? Again, we need to think about life totals. So basically we're playing against multiple opponents, and if one of the opponents have, for instance, 1 life and other have 20 lives, then basically every opponent's lives become 1, because this is the lowest amount of lives. This is actually a pretty cool thing, and I guess we need to categorize it. We need to put this one in Archenemy thing, because it's specific for the Archenemy, because I don't believe that there are going to be any instances where when we're going to play 1 on 3 or on 5, it's just basically not realistic unless we have something like Archenemy at our side. Because Archenemy, basically, this is kind of a balancing act that allows you to play against multiple players and survive. It's just basically additional deck that helps you to deal with the opponents, with multiple opponents. Because of that, we definitely need to create an additional thing in here. So basically, each opponent's life total becomes the lowest life total among your opponents, because again, it's kind of specific only to the archenemy, because we're facing against multiple opponents. Usually it's not the case, but it could work actually if we're playing against not only in opponent, like in archenemy. Actually, each opponent's life total becomes the lowest life total among your opponents. We could play like just for like fatal four-way, or how it called, probably free for all. Yeah, fatal four-way. This is from wrestling. Yeah, so it could be a free way, or free to play, or free. Oh man, free for all. Yes, it could be free for all. So basically, 4 players playing against each other, or more than 4 players. I don't know if Magic rules actually stand that. Maybe there's more than 4 players possible to play, but I doubt that. Maybe it's possible. I don't know. I encounter only 4 players at the same time. Either way, so yeah, that means that your opponents life total will become the lowest life total among your opponents. So basically, if one of your opponents is going to have 1 life, others could have 2. So it could actually work not in archenemy only. It could work outside of the archenemy. That means that we could put this one outside of the archenemy and put it in here. Pretty cool. Continuing. We have about 15 minutes till the switch to the magic duels. Oh, these hands are pretty wrinklish. When you set the scheme in motion, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Then each opponent who didn't sacrifice a creature discards 2 cards. La-dee-da-dee-doo. I wouldn't say that things are special here. For the most part, they're just regular. Again, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Then each opponent who didn't sacrifice a creature discards a card. So basically based on choice. So you have to sacrifice a creature. If you decide not to, then you will lose something. We already established something similar. So realms befitting my majesty. What befitting means? Familiar word, but I don't remember the translation. Достойный, подходящий. In keeping with, as benefit. Appropriate to, fit for, suitable for, suited to, proper to. Okay, doesn't matter. Continuing. Yeah, nothing special about that. The same search your library for up to the basic. Oh yeah, by the way, we already covered that. Yeah, so basically you search in libraries for 2 basic land cards, then put them into the battlefield tabbed, and then shuffle your library. Already did that, so rotted once lay siege. I constantly forgetting the siege translation. Yep, Asada. Because this is one of the words that not necessarily commonly used in our society, and because of that, the last time that I actually encountered this word was in WWE, the Raw Under Siege, something like that, when SmackDown basically sieged the Raw. When you set the scheme in motion, for each opponent create a 2/2 black zombie creature token that attacks that player each combat available. Again, kind of the same that we already established. Basically, this thing allows you to produce tokens, and then these tokens attack the opponents. So basically, again, choosing the targets, we established that. Pretty similar to that. So, this is probably a painful thing. When you set the scheme in motion, target opponent chooses self or others. If the player chooses self, he or she discards 4 cards. If the player chooses others, each of those other opponents discard 2 cards. The same, based on choice, but the difference is not sacrificing creatures, but discarding cards. Before that, we had similar ability, but with the sacrificing 2 creatures. If the player chooses self, he or she discards 4 cards, but it was 2 creatures. Sacrifices 2 creatures, discards 4 cards, and player chooses others. Each other player opponent discards 2 cards, and in previous instance was 1 sacrifice 1 creature. So based on choice, already established that. Your fate is thrice sealed, already went through that. Again, 3 cards of your library, put all land cards revealed this way into the battlefield, put the rest into your hand. Skipping. And I guess we already went through this one too. When you set the scheme in motion, draw 4 cards, you have no... Yep. Good. And do we have this ongoing thing or not? My Dead Horde Awakens. At the beginning of your end step, you may put target creature card from an opponent's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. When a creature put onto the battlefield with this scheme dies, abandon this scheme. That's actually pretty cool. Basically, this is the conditions that we need to meet in order to abandon the scheme. So I guess it's just a regular in-game thing. When a creature put into the battlefield with this scheme dies. So once the if this scheme is present and creature dies, then we will abandon the scheme. So nothing special. Again, it's just a trigger to abandon this scheme because it's ongoing and it's not going to change and reset. So we need to reset it, and the way to reset it is by triggering the ability. But with this thing at the beginning of your end step, okay, just turn structure, you may put a target creature card from an opponent's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Again, just a control based. Putting target creature card from the opponent's graveyard, bringing back cards from the opponent's graveyard to the under our control. Nothing special. Continuing. So yeah, we have about 10 minutes. Hopefully in the remaining time we will be able, I don't know, should we kind of finish or actually leave these things in another session? Let's think. How many new cards in here? There are a couple of new ones, and there's a couple of cards that kind of will repeat themselves. So right now we need to make a decision. Either we finishing with Archenemy today by extending the MTG Study session before going into the Magic Duels, because again, I don't believe that I will be able to play 2 hours in Magic Duels because there's nothing to do there. For the most part, only 2 quests to go through. One right now, and the other quest is going to be added in 12 minutes. So we might actually finish studying a Archenemy, but the problem is after that we're going to have Archenemy Nicola Bolas, and I guess because of that we could actually kind of wrap up the session, or at least deal with that one, and the next session, I don't know, we need to think. So let's just look what's here, because I don't want to rush things. I want to make sure that we will not going to skip anything, because again, this is the whole point of studying, and we might actually stumble upon pretty interesting abilities and pretty interesting schemes. Yeah, I guess not to rush things. I'm definitely not going to manage to go through all of this in half an hour, because yeah, I guess we're just going to kind of slowly end this part of the session. We're not going to, next session we will continue, which is going to be on Friday. We will continue with the other schemes from these 2 decks, and after we'll finish that, we will go into the Nicola Bolas. But what I want to kind of check is how many decks Nicola Bolas has, or there's just only one. It's kind of interesting. Oh, not that many information about Nicola Bolas deck, unfortunately. Credits, world design, nope, this is just the credits. Please note that this product will not be available for Magic Online. Wait a minute, so what Nicolo Bolas that set means though. Like, okay, we need to search a set. Let's just go through the advanced search. Let's just search a expansion, format colors. No, this is not it. Remove all conditions. Output format, standard, compact, visual spoiler. Okay, probably we need to go through a simple search, not advanced. Yep, card set. Archenemy Nicolo Bolas, because I kind of want to see what cards this set actually has. So, again, these are just regular cards, but what I'm interested in is the actual planes. Hopefully they're going to be present in here. Sorry for the quick scrolling. It's kind of one of the things that we need to check before. No, there's actually no... Yeah, since Nicolo Bolas actually doesn't have that much of information, let's just choose card format. We could search Nicolo Bolas Archenemy schemes. Archenemy schemes from the Nicolo Bolas set. Just search it because Nicolo schemes. MTG preview. We could go into the preview. Maybe preview has this information. Yeah, there's actually schemes in there. Oh, there's a regular schemes in there. I would want to know what schemes are there. Sorcery artifacts, deck list, instance artifacts, enchantments, lands. Scheme gallery. Oh snap, yeah, hello there. So yeah, the scheme gallery. So yeah, not that many schemes in here though. Yeah, so it's kind of a limited amount of schemes in here, and because of that, there are regular schemes in here, and ongoing schemes too. Because I thought that ongoing schemes were represented only in this set, but apparently they were present in the regular Archenemy. Because again, the only place that I knew Archenemy was Magic Duels of Planeswalkers. No, yeah, Magic Duels of Planeswalkers 2012 digital game. So this is the first time that I kind of knew about the Archenemy, and my knowledge about Archenemy was limited by that, which is actually pretty cool. So yeah, we're going to keep that one in here. We will continue with Nicolo Bolas, and we will finish with why didn't they put this information in here? A shame. Yeah, and we will continue next time from the Scorch the World with Dragonfire. Let's just copy that. This is going to be our deck list that we're going to continue. So let's just duplicate that one, put this one in here. Yeah, and I guess on that note we'll just slowly going to kind of wrap up the session, because I need to kind of change the title. I need to launch a completely different program for that, which I never streamed with before. So at least I'm going to like do that at least 5 minutes. So in about 5 minutes we will restart the session, and we will continue with Magic Duels, where we for the most part, just going to go for quests, and that's kind of it. So I guess we'll see you in more than a couple of minutes. I guess at least 5 minutes break. I need to drink water because my throat is definitely super dry. It's pretty hard to talk. Yeah, and I definitely need to make sure that the program that I'm going to stream Magic Duels with is actually going to work. So maybe it's going to be multiple kind of tries of streaming. But again, it's pretty easy to set up, and I already set it up, so I just need to launch it and that's it. So yeah, I guess we'll see you in Magic Duels in a bit. So stay here and I will be back in a couple of minutes, maybe 5, 10 or so, something like that, kind of.